Welcome back, Clone Club, to Episode 1, Season 5, our Orphan Black recap, The Few Who Dare, which I haven't been able to find where they're taking the titles from this season yet.
I'm sure once a few more episodes come up, you'll have more quotes to put into context.
So if you know where the quotes for the titles are coming this season, let us know. I haven't been able to figure it out. But the Orphan Black is back, starting its final season. And I feel like this episode... I should say I'm Will Link, if you didn't already know.
And I'm Megan Salinas. Hey, guys.
Structure has gone all out the window here.
I mean, that's just how it feels, having Orphan Black back. You're just flooded with all of these emotions. You can't properly articulate it.
I feel like there was a lot of table setting in this episode. This was an episode to kind of get us back, reset where the Sestras were at. What did you think overall of the return?
For anybody who watched our season 4 recap, I expressed concern about Orphan Black becoming a little bit too much like a certain other show about people on an island, and I maintain that fear.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I so think it's because I so don't see that. I don't think it's gonna. It's starting to double down on some mythology, but I don't know how deep we're really gonna get into that mythology, because I mean the big thing that kind of looms over this island is PT Westmoreland, and here's my big thought on PT Westmoreland. PT. When you think of PT, who do you think of?
I don't think of anyone in particular. I think of a demo created by Hideo Kojima for Silent Hill and Guillermo del Toro into a game that never got made.
When most people think of PT, what's a name you think of?
The circus.
P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
And I believe this is a hint, and I'm going out on a limb here, I believe this is a hint at that this is all smoke and mirrors. This is all a show.
I would be 100% willing to agree with you on that. Because again, the whole magical clone wizard thing, that never gelled with me. The idea that PT could either be a charlatan or just a straight up lie is I buy that.
The only thing that gives me pause to that theory is that Delphine, at one point, she's holding Cosima's the science is real.
Well, just because they're actually making a lot of scientific breakthroughs doesn't mean he's a 170-year-old man. I call shenanigans on that. Yeah. I don't care what kind of science you show me. I call shenanigans.
I kind of call shenanigans on that too. I think there's going to be a P.T. Barnum type thing that he's not. Yeah. That
it's all a ringmaster. Rachel's his new ringmaster.
She kind of is.
Yeah.
So let's reset a little bit here. Even though this was I think Cosima was really the star of this episode. Let's reset and talk about Sarah, because that's where the episode starts. And it starts off with Sarah, who should have charged her cell phone before she went to Creepy Island.
To be fair, when you're roaming, it just sucks your battery.
That's true. They probably don't have a great signal there. So Sarah calls Felix, who's with Ira, and tells him what's happened, that S and Kira have been kidnapped by Ferdinand, and she finds out there's this village, and she finds out where the boathouse is, and the whole opening is basically Sarah in survival mode, which we've seen before, but this was really Sarah in survival mode wilderness edition.
Yeah. This was definitely her Survivor reality TV show sort of bit, but I think there are a couple things we can take away from Sarah's storyline. Is one, and it's something you really should have known at this point, do not mess with Sarah.
Yeah.
Two, I like that we had Felix really quick being able to call her out on lying about being okay. I like that he can recognize that she's in immediate danger, so it spurs him into action. And three, she gets attacked by some creepy feral person out there.
Yeah.
See, this is what I mean. There are people on one side of the island, and there are probably people on the other side of the island, and this is where I'm a little upset.
I wouldn't compare feral people to others, if that's... Although I guess the revival people are kind of Dharma Initiative-ish.
I do have a theory, and maybe it's too early to, talk about theories. Is it too early to talk about theories?
In this episode of the season?
Just about this, what the explanation for this random feral person might be.
Yeah, because I want to know your thoughts. So let's talk about random feral people, but person or people in the woods.
I'm gonna maybe I'm overstepping my bounds, calling it a little too early. But I think that there's more than one feral person, and I think that they are failed experiments from Revival.
I don't think you are wrong. I think that's gotta be what it is, because they're clearly messing with people, messing with genetics for their prolongevity projects, and there's gonna be some fuck-ups. Yeah. I mean, we've seen it with clones in the past. We've seen
it with babies, with the bots.
So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the feral people are like mutated mistakes that are running around this island, and for whatever reason, maybe they stay out of the village, or maybe we'll see the village get attacked by them at some point.
Like once somebody gets experimented on and they're considered a failure, although I don't know why they wouldn't just kill them. Maybe a group got out, they broke out, and they're like, well, shoot, we should have killed them when we...
Or maybe like a wild animal, you tag them and research them and see where this mutation goes.
Oh, yeah, you release them out into the wild.
Well, because they're walking around with their guns. I mean, I'm sure they have real guns, but these guns were shooting darts. And I wouldn't be surprised if those same darts are used to, bag and tag these. One of the hunters out there who's hunting for Sarah, he clearly knows the whole deal, because there was another guy what the hell's going on out here?
What's happening?
And then
it was a bear, but the wolf was stabbed in the throat. It was a bear. Okay.
Man, and these feral people did a number on that wolf.
Holy cow. Did you watch the last season of Samurai Jack?
No.
There was a whole just a tiny little subplot this past season about a white wolf. It was a metaphor for being a lone wolf, etc., etc. And so, it's really interesting going from that show and seeing, oh, how beautiful that is, to Sarah turning over and being like, ah! Something stabbed this thing in the throat and ripped out its stomach like a chest burster. Oh.
I also think it's interesting, and I always notice this with shows. I see something on one show, and then I see it on 3 or 4 shows later, in the week, and I'm like, everyone had the same idea. There's a second show I watched this weekend in which someone used a tampon to stop a open wound, to help heal an open wound. It also happened on Orange is the New Black.
Never leave home without it.
Which is I like that it happened on both those shows, because I consider those shows oddly spiritual sister shows in a weird way, because they both have Black in the title, they both start with O, they both premiere around the same time, they're both about strong female characters. I've always considered those shows to be somehow connected.
They're sisters.
I'd like to think that the showrunners talk you use a tampon sub, yeah, we'll do that too, it'll be our wink wink.
It'll be our wink. It's like Gravity Falls and Rick and Morty, the creators are buddies, so they throw in little Easter eggs.
So yeah, when they keep talking about what's in the woods, it's clearly these feral people. We see one of them, and those will definitely, if those don't come into play, then there's something wrong.
Yeah.
But Sarah, basically, she gets to Revival, the village, and she goes to
get Cosima
out, but Cosima's not going anywhere, because Cosima's going to stay with the science and the research, and also she knows Delphine is part of this. Delphine, she loses Delphine almost immediately after seeing Delphine again, which is something we basically assumed that would happen.
But I just like Sarah, using her walking stick as she's leaving. Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Bye, sis.
Yeah, I mean, that's gotta be really frustrating. You've gone through all this to save your sestra, and then She's
Well,
staying. But I
on
get
the
why
plus-
why she's staying.
Yeah.
The cure is there. The science is there. Delphine is part of this group.
And she's like, if I can stay, I'll be able to help all of us. Because clearly Cosima has no intention of actually drinking the Kool-Aid and actually stay. She's going to stay for as long as it takes to help her sisters. And then she's going to bounce. Help her sisters and Delphine.
Wait, well, let me say this. Cosima loves the science. Cosima wants to help her sisters. If we're wrong about, well, even if we're right about P.T. Westmoreland being like a shady, like kind of a fake, kind of
A
a
charlatan.
Like, I mean, even last season they made a Wizard of Oz reference. Like,
He's the man behind the curtain.
And
who is the man behind the curtain? A con artist.
So, even if he turns out to be a con artist, I could see Cosima for a time, or Cosima's storyline this season being she starts to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. She starts
That's
to
be indoctrinated a little.
yeah, because
She goes native.
well, I mean, she probably would be into, like, Cosima was always kind of into Neolution before, like, in the first season, she was kind of into it. She was kind of into the ideas they were doing, to an extent.
I feel like it's going to be very similar. To an extent, she'll be indoctrinated a little bit, but here's the thing. Cosima always knows when to put people ahead of science.
That's true.
She will never sacrifice anybody's life for the sake of science, unless it's like, please study me so that, like, everybody can learn from this disease I'm dying of. Cosima's not the type of person to be like, yes, let's experiment on them. Mwahahaha.
So Sarah basically has to leave Cosima, and again, oh my god, just watching Tatiana Maslany act against Tatiana Maslany, then leave the trailer, and then another Tatiana Maslany come in and act against Tatiana Maslany is always just so incredible that these...
It's so funny that you just put it that way, because in my mind, I'm like, Sarah leaves Cosima as Cosima is preparing to do this, and then Rachel comes in and everything's crazy. But you're absolutely right. It's Tatiana Maslany. Tatiana Maslany.
But your attitude is what speaks to how brilliant her performance is.
Exactly.
A performance we have been drinking the Kool-Aid on for years now. But she makes it to the boathouse. She leaves there and makes it to the boathouse. And of course, Rachel's...
Right at the finish line.
But you want to know what? Rachel's gonna bring her back to Toronto or whatever. And she's probably better off because I don't know about taking that boat all the way back.
Well, what I didn't consider when Rachel was initially being all stab happy and stuff was that she actually... I mean, there's... As much as she hates Sarah and Ira are very valuable because Ira's the last caster clone that they have access to. And Sarah, they were able to create the cure because of these two.
Yeah.
What if something happens to the current cure cultures that they have? Like, what if there's errors in administering them? What if something goes wrong? You need to have Sarah and Ira there to make more if need be.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. Rachel wasn't like a total bitch to Sarah. I mean, she was. But she was like, she didn't kill her, which she was trying to do at the end of last season. Yeah. Well, maybe I'm setting the bar low for Rachel. Like,
I don't see how not killing someone is the same thing as doing them a favor.
But I'm sure that was a mandate from Westmoreland, and either Westmoreland is the real deal or he's a charlatan, but either way Rachel is clearly buying into it, and she likes having the power. She's in charge of Neolution.
And if you're gonna start up the cloning program again, you need the two of them, because without them they don't have Kendall anymore, so they need Castor and Sarah, or Ira and Sarah, in order to start the cloning program back up again. Because you can't just... Like, you're going to run out of stuff real quick.
How creepy was it, though, that Rachel is giving this giant speech to, like, these people, and they're all applauding, and they're all, like... I mean, it was a little oh my god, like, they've bought into Rachel immediately.
It was kind of like, oh, she's, like, PT approved. That means she's cool in our book, and she's a clone, and... These people scare the bejesus out of me.
Well, because they're so they're so blinded by this science. They have this, like they're reading a children's book, and even Charlotte's like, these people are creepy or scary or whatever, because that book is creepy.
It's meant to like brainwash the kids. You remember when we found the Prolethean cult and we were introduced to Gracie and everything like that. I remember feeling really bad for Gracie because you could tell there was a lot of fear instilled in her from her situation. These people, the exact opposite.
I was about to say, Mud, the girl we meet, Mud.
She is way too happy.
Yeah, she is. I remember, but I'll tell you what. I never trust people who are always so happy. I would be much more trustful of the person who's like kind of a dick sometimes. These people are that girl Mud way too happy.
Sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows.
Let's talk about Cosima.
Also, her name is Mud. Why is she happy? I would be so sad if my name was Mud.
She likes the. I guess she likes the joke of it.
Your name literally means dirt. You're wet dirt.
These revival people, they got a sense of humor.
The only other thing I want to say is that when Rachel's giving the speech and she's like all decked out in her big old fur coat and that weird like shawl thing,
and her awesome cane.
She looks like a member of like the Capitol from the Hunger Games.
She does. Oh my God, she does. That's a good pull. And I'm sure. Well, I'm sure. You know, dystopian. That dystopian chic look is. We're
gonna make ultra super people with jeans, with amazing jeans, and then we're gonna pit them against each other in a death match because we can.
I want to point out that it is pointed out to Cosima that she wakes up in a yurt. When anyone who listened to the podcast last season, or even saw us discuss last week. Yes, I've been using the word yurt a lot. Maybe the Orphan Black writers have been watching or listening because when she said, you're in a yurt, I slapped I was like, yes! I said, yeah.
I did a little bit of a double take. I was like, oh, they actually call it that.
Okay, so we kind of already got into our thoughts on P.T. Westmoreland. To me, the great scene of this episode, though, was, Cosima, she has her moment with Delphine, which, is I think less tender than we want it to be. She gives her a great hug, and it's a great moment between them. But then she's also like whispering like, "It's in the refrigerator in the trailer." It's not the romantic moment we want. It's more like a pragmatic moment.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but when time is of the essence, romance kind of has to go out the window.
Yeah.
It sucks because we want, we want the music to crescendo as they embrace and kiss, but like she's like, "No, here's a key. You got to do this, this, and this. I love you. Okay, bye."
Now, Delphine has to go to Sardinia.
Why?
Because they each have a role to play. So let me ask you this, talk about the Kool-Aid. Delphine, do you think, she says the science is real. She's giving creepy, vague, like answers like each have a role. Do you think Delphine is buying into what P.T. Westmoreland is going? Okay.
No. I think that she's, like, every time she speaks, yes, the science is real and making breakthroughs, and she obviously works at the clinic to help people. But anytime she's talking to Cosima in hushed whispers, it is 100% out of fear. Like,
that's true.
She is desperate to make sure Cosima is able to administer the cure to herself, and she is desperate to convey as much information as she can before she is forced to leave Cosima. And not to mention, she's hiding things and, like, doing her best. If she really felt like these were trustworthy people, she wouldn't feel the need to hide. She'd be like, "Cosima, let's go over to the clinic right away. Hey, everybody, they have the cure. Let's administer the cure to Cosima." Like, there's none of that. There is no trust there.
And it could be that, like you said, she helps this little girl in the episode that you know, if you got kids with cancer there, Delphine's not going to turn her back on them. She's going to try to help whatever people they're bringing in from around the world.
And as we see, this section of Neolution, or all of Neolution now, because consolidation, how deep it really goes. They've got their tendrils everywhere. And Delphine knows that. And that's probably one of the reasons why she hasn't tried to make an escape, because where can you run?
The other thing that I think is interesting, you know, last year we talked a lot about Brightborn, and we talked a little bit about eugenics, and they were all making like the same, trying to make the same, all these babies have dimples, you know, that kind of a thing. I will say Revival, as far as creepy science cults go, seems a little more inclusive. I mean, they're bringing people from around the world. They're people, you know what I mean? It seems a little more like, it's not like they're trying
a little bit more pro-diversity as opposed to uniformity.
They might be trying to create a master race, but it's a master race of different races.
That makes it better?
It doesn't make it better. I'm just saying, it's not. I mean, it's true. I'm saying Revival better than Brightborn.
As far as we know, Revival hasn't murdered lots of babies.
But they're going to. Let's talk about what I think is the best scene of the episode. When Cosima is going to give herself the cure.
Oh my god.
And it's another one of those medical Orphan Black moments where I started to cringe as she had this long needle and was about to jab herself in the uterus.
You have to inject it right along the uterine wall, and it's like, I feel like I can guesstimate how deep that goes, right?
And then Rachel came in, and in the biggest show of trust we've ever seen anyone give Rachel, well, I shouldn't say Rachel was like part of the team for an episode last season, but like really, like Cosima basically put her life in Rachel's hands, and Rachel administered it because Westmoreland wants Cosima to be part of this. It does feel like, although Rachel is probably going to go off the rails and do some terrible things, it does feel like she's being properly reined in for a time by Westmoreland.
Yeah, I don't know how much Rachel knows, because, you know, we see her walk up to Westmoreland's house, and she walks out, and she's just like, I have seen the light. So I don't know what she knows at this point that's making her act this way.
There is a reason Susan wanted nothing to do with Westmoreland, and why she avoided the village and stuff like that. So, but I thought that scene was great. And again,
I thought so too, and like again, because thank goodness Cosima is a genius, because otherwise I don't think they would have nearly as much use for her. So
is Cosima then? I mean, does this put to bed the Cosima is sick and dying storyline? That's my big question.
I give it 2 more episodes before we know for sure.
Okay, but I mean, this cure is going to work. Because
I hope so.
If it doesn't, then we have to spend half the season trying to find yet another cure. Because we've tried the cure. What was it?
Hand holding. Oh, bone marrow.
Bone marrow. The cure of bone marrow.
Just hold Kira's hand. You'll be fine.
We've tried many things that haven't quite worked. So if this doesn't work, that would be, you know,
that's a lot of wasted time.
Yeah, we're in the end game of the show. I think this is getting Cosima healthy. You mentioned how they have their tendrils everywhere. Well, Art's got a new partner, speaking of that, which Neolution tendrils have their hooks in. Let's talk about Maddie, new character. She worked in Vice. She's seen things. She's a hard-living, tough-talking lady. I'm not going.
That sensitivity training.
I am not going to lie. When she first, this show has thrown a lot of crazy science at me that I'm like, I don't quite understand this. Maddie's first scene with Art, I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. I honestly didn't. Maybe I should go back and rewatch it. There was some joke about misogyny that I didn't quite get.
I sat there and I was like, what?
Okay, good.
Maybe she just says things to intentionally be confusing, because she's a perplexing person.
If you understood that joke, let me know. I'm going to go back and rewatch it before next week. But
I think the idea is to establish her as so tough as nails and, like, gritty and, like, insensitive that her male partner is like, man, you are such a misogynist, lady. I can't be your partner anymore.
I get that.
I think that's what they were going for, but I'm not quite sure that the joke landed.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a confusing joke, and
it's okay. She's a terrible person. Stand-up comedy just should not be her shtick.
She comes in, and well, actually, here's the thing. I kind of wish they didn't tip the hand so broadly or tell us right away she was in with Neolution.
Final season, we don't have time. Push.
I mean, I guess that's...
Tell me where they are.
I guess that's what it is, because what I wrote down the second they said, Art, you got a new partner, I'm like, well, that makes sense. He needs a new partner. He hasn't had a partner in a while since he was working with DeAngelis for a while there, who wasn't really ever technically his partner.
I was kind of waiting for DeAngelis to come back, and that never happened, so... but neither here nor there.
But she then she starts immediately, like, Maddie comes in hot, which I guess we should appreciate because it is the final season, but she comes in right away with, like, talking about weird body modifications and vice bond, and then, like, oh yeah, clones, oh yeah, the Hendrixes, oh yeah, here's your daughter, like, what, like, man, like, they got Art by the balls, basically. And, this leads to the big question that I have about Art in this season, and I wonder if it will be his arc. Can Art be corrupted? Will Art be corrupted? Clearly, if they're threatening his daughter, Art loves the Sestras because he loved Beth. They're extension of Beth, and now he loves them as people too. They're his friends.
Yeah, he was there at dinner.
But if forced to choose between helping the Hendrixes, saving his daughter, he's going to choose his daughter.
Of course.
Always. So can Art be corrupted?
I wouldn't use the word corrupted. Maybe compromised is more the right word, because corrupted implies that he's willing to become evil or something like that for...
They got a lot of dirt on him.
I mean, they do, and he's done a lot of super illegal things. All sorts of super illegal. But here's the thing. Art's the type of guy where even if he were to do something selfish, like, I don't know, give up the Hendrixes to save his daughter, he would feel so bad about it. He would feel so guilty that he would have to make up for it in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. His conscience would not allow him to just write it off. So even if he were to backstab the Sestras at some point this season, he would do his damnedest to make up for it by the time the season's over.
And I wouldn't be shocked if that's what we end up seeing.
Yeah. Although his life is on the line too, as we see once they actually, once they actually get a clone in their possession, they do not hesitate to pull a gun on him. Yeah, and to try to get Allison to talk. So let's talk about the Hendrixes living off the grid, with special guest star Helena. Now, I take it back. Sarah was more like man versus nature. The Hendrixes are in Survivor, because they're the suburbanites that are like, we don't know what we're doing here. Helena's out there killing God's creatures. My favorite part of them out in the wilderness, of course, is Donnie doing a loon call. He's really good at it, and he's really proud of the fact he's good at it. Basically, early in the episode, they are told to stay off the grid. Yep. And it seems like that's what they're going to do. Until, of course, a bunch of Neos show up in the national park, and they grab Allison. And now, here's a big moment in the episode. Donnie does nothing. He runs deeper into the woods with his suitcase. As his wife is getting dragged off. And begging for his help. Yes. Now, again, let's talk about, like, pragmatically. There is no way, if Donnie went to help Allison, that he wouldn't get captured. Yeah, Donnie or killed. Knows this. Yeah. They need the clones. They don't need Donnie. If Donnie can get to Helena,
and maybe some of the other clones, Sestras, maybe he can then help Allison.
That was my thought process.
Okay, so we're giving Donnie the benefit of the doubt that this wasn't him being cowardly, that this was him being like, I can help my wife more if I'm not captured.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to think so. The bad thing is that she's screaming for his help in that moment because she knows he's nearby.
Oh, none of this is going to make Allison feel any better about it.
She's going to be real upset.
But I think Donnie, over the seasons, we've seen him become more courageous. We've seen him take on people to protect his family. So it wouldn't make sense for him to revert back to that. I think he was being pragmatic. However, when you see him stumbling through the woods with a roller suitcase, it doesn't
look good.
Yeah.
The thing is that like it's like obviously we know he's trying to do the right thing by finding Helena, but as you know, he's dragging his suitcase. It's like, Donnie, you really should just drop the suitcase and go, but okay, yeah, whatever.
Of course, Donnie does go back to the camp, and there's still one Neo there who gets the drop on him, but then somebody gets a drop on that Neo, and that is Helena. Now, here's the problem.
I told you!
Yeah.
I told you a pregnant woman should not be doing all this running around and jumping.
And we talked about this last week, that, I want to see Helena fight again, but I really hope she doesn't while she's pregnant. And I audibly gasped when I saw the stick that was in her, and she goes, "Stickin' baby." Stickin' baby, that was horrifying to me. That was horrifying. I am sure that the babies are going to be okay.
I'm not.
I don't think they're going to kill one of her babies. You think they'll kill her babies?
I don't want her to. I don't want them to, but looking at that, I'm like, yep, that is a stick-in baby.
It probably is going to be a touch-and-go thing. Donnie's going to get her to the hospital. There's going to be a lot of questions about why there's a stick in the baby. But you know what this might result in, actually? This might result in, we got to get the babies out now, and the baby's getting born prematurely. And that will also get the kind of Helena pregnancy storyline. So maybe Stickin' Baby is a good thing storyline-wise, because it'll move us past the pregnancy. Not that I have a problem with the pregnancy storyline, but I do want to, by the end of this season, have Helena back in, fighting shape.
I was going to say that, she can't pull a Prometheus, though, if they do a cesarean. She can't just be like, oh, well, they've stapled up my stomach. Time to go for a jog. Don't do that. That's not how cesareans work.
I don't know. Helena's tougher than most. Helena was shot dead at the end of the first season and walked into a hospital by herself.
You cut your stomach muscles when you do that. You can't hold yourself upright properly.
Look, I am not saying a normal woman. I am talking about
a
Helena.
super clone.
Yes.
Super clone Helena. Actually, there might be something to that. I mean, haven't she and Sarah always recovered very quickly from their injuries?
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
Super clone Helena.
So does Kira. Recovers extremely fast.
Kira magic!
Which is the one thing involving Kira that her empath thing does not quite explain. But Stickin' Baby, I audibly gasped.
I was very uncomfortable.
I think we're gonna get I think this is gonna lead to a fast resolution to the pregnancy storyline. One more person to talk about, and that is Felix, who is, as I kind of feared, is once again, it's like, oh, he's just helping, and I figure that's going to be his role this season.
Well, it would be weird if he was doing anything other than, putting his detective hat on, because S and Kira have been captured by Ferdinand, and there's very little trace of them. And Sarah's on an island. Of course he's going to start snooping around and trying to find things. And
no, you're right. I just, once again,
it would make no sense if he's like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with my sister for a little while. I hope everybody's cool with that. Bye.
Yeah, like we said last week, I've always felt like Felix, and maybe it's just because Jordan Gavaris is such a good actor. Felix has always gotten slightly shortchanged, so it's not surprising to come into this episode and be like, oh, he is just going to be doing this role.
Life and death stakes, and again, cut off from contact with Sarah, Siobhan, and Kira potentially on the run. It makes sense.
He does meet a creepy Neolutionist, and on his hunt to... okay, here's what I do like if he's putting on his detective hat. I like that his detective hat can lead to finding MK. Like, maybe that's the quote-unquote island you put Felix on storyline-wise this season. Like, he's finding this other Sestra, and maybe that... You know what would make me feel good about Felix's character this season? Seeing him develop a relationship with another clone. And MK, that could be the clone.
Somebody besides Allison, you mean?
Yeah, because he's got the strong bond with Allison. He's got a strong bond kind of with all of them at this point. It'd be interesting to see, and I think it'd be interesting for the character to see him develop, or maybe not develop. Maybe like have real issues.
Maybe he finds MK and they really don't like each other.
I mean, I could see him being very frustrated by MK, as everyone would be. So yeah, I mean, he is gonna play helper. He's gonna put on his detective hat.
Again, I wouldn't say play helper. I like Detective Felix.
Okay.
I'm into it. I think it's great because he goes straight to the crime scene and there's blood on this court.
But at the end of the day, he's gonna have nothing to do with any of that, right? Like for example, Sarah's going to get off the island without Felix's help. Sarah's gonna find out where they're holding S and Kira without Felix's help because Rachel is just going to tell him. So it's like...
It could be that he's going to be the one that's going to be able to safely get Helena and the babies out of the hospital. And Donnie. Because right now she's going to have to go in there under the identity of Allison.
Look, I don't want anyone to think I'm shitting on Felix. I just want a really good Felix storyline for this last season.
Fair enough. Like, and I thought you don't want him to be a catch-all for whatever the plot needs him to do.
Yes. What I think is smart that the writers have done is in season 3 and season 4, he's expressed those very fears himself. So the writers are clearly very aware that they have a little bit of a Felix problem. I did love the adoption stuff last season. Like, that all made sense to me. Like, him trying to expand his family.
Well, and also you can only put up with something being about your sibling for so long. Like, when everything's about Sarah, like, yeah, you're going to get tired of that real quick. You're going to be like, I want to live my own life.
So, do we have any predictions for next week? I mean, I feel like we've already thrown out some big ones here.
I mean, we straight up see Kira in Rachel's possession, which by the end of this episode, it was kind of left ambiguous as to whether or not Siobhan and Kira were just on the run or whether they had been apprehended. Because Ferdinand was clearly stabbed, so we had no idea what actually became of them, but next episode we definitely see Kira in Rachel's possession, and I think maybe that lends some credence to your theory that maybe Kira is going to be part of the reason why Rachel comes around.
Rachel does want children, and she does, as much as Rachel can like anything in this world,
have a fondness for Kira.
Yeah, because even Rachel had a weird fondness. I mean, her and Charlotte would give each other shit, but she had a weird fondness for Charlotte in a way.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, you're seeing a younger version of yourself. That's basically it. And they were both kind of infirm with their own physical limitations. So, but this was also clearly a very smart girl being raised by Susan Duncan. Yeah. I could understand why she had a fondness for Charlotte.
And obviously won't get an answer to this, but I'm very curious to know what you think about the idea that P.T. Westmoreland is a fraud, is pulling a P.T. Barnum here.
Again, calling shenanigans.
Yeah, so I guess that is it for this week.
Oh, yeah, we got through that. Like, I'm so excited to be talking about this season. I know I was making jokes about Lost at the beginning, but I'm really excited to be talking about the final season. This is going to be a lot of fun.
And I guess I get your Dharma Initiative fears. Revival is a very Dharma Initiative type place, it seems. But I love Lost. I say get deep into Lost territory.
Don't do it. Please, for the love of God, don't do it, Orphan Black. Don't do it.
So
Spare me.
Megan, tell the people where they can find you.
You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at The Menguin. That's TheMenguin. I am also on a bunch of shows at a network called AfterBuzz. I write articles for The Movie Chick. That's Chick with 2 Ks. I do a YouTube channel called Silver Screams where I just did a drunken review of The Mummy.
Is that the only way to see The Mummy? Drunk?
Yeah. No, I would not recommend doing it sober. And also be sure to check out The Shadow recreation where I do the voice of Margot Lane.
Look at all this. You can follow me on Twitter at The Real Will Link. And you can listen to my podcast, Will Sean Podcast. The answer is yes, we do. So you can listen to it. Where we break down whatever's going on in the week in pop culture. And we will be back here next Sunday night and every Sunday night through season 5, the final trip for Orphan Black. Bye.
Bye. You're gonna end every episode with Helena going towards the camera.
Yes.